Hey everybody, I am lucky to be in a cinder block cell today. Um, Loving the opportunity at the Brookings Public Library. Hold on, I'm looking up the questions for today. The Brookings Public Library actually allows or rents out or loans these amazing study rooms. And I'm here in Brookings, South Dakota, visiting my folks, and they were lucky enough, or I was lucky enough for them to offer to let me have a room for the day. So, hey Guthrie, great to see you. Sorry, hold on, I'm getting the questions out. Okay, Project Management 101, here we go, people. Project management, I should say, let me step back. Meg and I come from very different backgrounds. I come from project management world in the aerospace side. Meg comes through the HR world, through the mining side. And so we literally talk about underground to outer space. So it's a pretty cool combination. But we also have very specific, so I should say, the melding of these two worlds and how we actually pull things off, hey Kristen, actually is what is sort of magic about IX leadership, and that we've actually pulled things off in big teams already as leaders and part of a big leadership team. So the cool thing is, though, is we both bring these very interesting perspectives. I'm very project management, process-based, and Meg is very HR, take care of people, legal, organization development side. So this week we decided, since I was on my own today, Meg is off delivering to a client to do a little bit of project management and how I think project management intersects with IX leadership and, frankly, how we get things done and do business. So, all right, a couple things. Let's see here. One of the questions was, project management sounds intimidating. Where do I start? Well, that's actually what project management's all about. So project management, when you get really good at it, it provides you the ability to take a really big, complicated project and break it down into pieces that are manageable, affordable, doable with the resources you have, whether that's human resources, money, time, all of the things. And so one great example is my house that I live in. It was an 1898 farmhouse, is an 1898 farmhouse. And when I first bought it, everyone said it looked like a crazy, well, I called it a crazy house. So my dad thought I should throw a match in the window. I'm going to bring a picture, see if I can show you. He thought I should throw a match in the window. It was pretty sketchy. I'll show you. Let's see if I can. And I may have shown you some people this before. So this is the, oh, so son of a gun. That's the before picture, and that's the after picture. So when I was looking at this crazy house, which looked like this, and I tackled it, I was probably the 10th person that actually tried to do something with this place. And I had so many people come up to me and say, oh my gosh, I would have loved to do something with that house, but I didn't even know where to start. So this is the thing, is very common. And so the great thing is as a project manager, you see this crazy project, and I don't really think of it as, oh my God, it's going to be so huge and big. I think, oh, well, I know that. First of all, we have to do this and this, and you just start breaking it down in your head automatically. So it kind of takes these big projects and makes them feel much more manageable. Which is probably why I'm not afraid to take on the biggest, craziest projects, right? So it's a real gift, frankly. And after you get used to thinking about it that way, it becomes second nature to you and it affects everything in your life. So it's one of those skills that actually integrates into all portions of your and what you do. So where do you start with project management? Well, the first thing I always tell people is to understand what success looks like. In project management, we call that requirements development or scope development. But really at the end of the day, before you embark on a project, you need to understand very specifically what success looks like. So for this house, I had an architect, I had an architect draw up the plans, and not like the big, complicated, that $10,000 version, just the pretty, this is what I want this house to look like when I'm done with it version. And so I knew what I wanted to feel like, what I wanted to look like, how many bathrooms I was going to have. There weren't any bathrooms in the house when I started, so that was the whole thing. what does success look like? Do I want an attached garage? How big is that going to be? And so to actually list out what success looks like and what things you're not going to do. So when I budgeted for this remodel, I didn't include landscaping because I knew that it would be $30,000, $40,000 to really because I got about an acre. So to really develop a whole landscaping plan and plant trees and plant flowers and all of the things, and am I going to put a sprinkler in and all that stuff, I just didn't include that. So almost as important as what does success look like and what you're going to do is what are the things you're not going to do. So any kind of project you embark on, you have to really be anchored in what does that thing look like, because then as you move forward, every single question you have, am I going to do this or should I do this? Well, this is an option. What about that? Here's this other thing. If you aren't rock solid in what you want that thing to look like, then you don't know how to make those day-to-day tiny little decisions. Now, if you have that rock solid out here, you understand what you want this project to look like, then at least you can make those decisions. Now, to be fair, when I think I know what I want this house to look like, I might not know yet if I know if I'm going to paint the trim or not. Like that's a detail, right? So as you move through a project, what's called progressive elaboration, you progressively get more and more detailed about what exactly you want to pull off. Okay, so and what that pulling off looks like. So as we went through, okay, well, I decided I was going to have 2.5 baths, right? My biggest problem was I had to have a half bathroom in the main floor because some people don't want to climb stairs to use the bathroom or can't. So I wanted a bathroom downstairs, but there really wasn't a good place to put it. And let me tell you, I worked and worked and worked and worked and worked and worked on this. And I finally had to decide on a not that great solution, but okay solution. And so you have to, as you move forward, you're going to make those decisions more and more as you go along. Okay, so that's how you get started. What is it you're actually doing? Because the other cool thing is, once you figure out what you're actually doing and what does success look like, then you can start putting in place the resources to get that done. So for this house, I figured it would cost me about $220,000 to gut it, rebuild it from scratch, put on a garage, put a driveway in, etc. Put the porch on the front, all the things. So then the next thing I needed, so now that I knew what that looked like, I had to decide how I was going to pull that off. And in the building world, you hire a general contractor. Now in other parts of the world, whether you're in IT development or perhaps you're doing healthcare or whatever, you probably have a project manager or a leader or someone tagged to, hopefully you have this, tagged to the success of that project. So who was I going to work with? I can't do it full time. I knew kind of what had to be done, but I didn't know who to work with, who was the best price. I didn't really have that kind of bandwidth. So, because I was working full time at another job. So I went to hire a general contractor. Now, most general contractors wouldn't touch this house, wouldn't even return my call. Totally get it. But what I finally did was I finally found a general contractor. I met with him and I said, tell me what you think this house would cost to make. And he came in with like a $215,000 estimate. And I was at $210,000, $220,000. And so I knew that he knew what he was getting into and that I knew what I was getting into with him. And so that was our first step is, are we on the same page? Are we moving in the same direction? So once you get that goal and you're locked into that, and then you can start putting resources in place. In my case, it was hiring a general contractor and then moving forward. Now, maybe you're doing a project with a civic organization or and those get really tricky because it's not necessarily just your idea. So if you think about building consensus or getting a community on board or getting a team on board, if you're not if you don't have the authority and you're just trying to build consensus to move a project forward, that is a different challenge. But you still have to know, what does success look like? It might be that you work in a group and maybe you whiteboard or brainstorm together and you decide what that looks like. Or maybe you go to the person that's in your team that did it last and get lessons learned from them, or lots of other things that you could do. So that's how you get started. What does success look like? And then you start hiring and organizing the resources to get it done. If you want to, let's say we have some ranchers in the group. So let's say you want to build a new pole barn. And okay, what does that look like? How big is it? How tall is it? How long is it? Do you want to put equipment in there? Is it going to be used for hay storage? Is it going to be used for machine shop? What's the use going to be? Does it have to be heated? Do you want a heated floor? Do you want to insulate it? You can see how all of those things can carry on. And don't get overwhelmed by that. Just start writing the things down. Where people get overwhelmed with projects is they don't document. They just sit and it's like they just worry. They're tormented by all these things they haven't decided. Freaking just write it down, people. Just sit and write it down. It's amazing when you get it out and you start writing. You're not committing to it. You're just expressing what's in your brain. And as you build it, then you can even give options. Let's say that you're not sure you want it heated. Maybe you want it heated. And then you can explore, okay, if I heat it, and then that means I probably should insulate it, right? Or your heat just goes outside. You might want to insulate it. What is the increased cost? Is that increased cost worth what I want to use it for? So if I'm a machinist and I ranch and I want to do some machining and I want to work in there all winter, I better have that freaking thing heated and insulated, or guess what? I'm never going in there because I don't want to work when it's 20 degrees outside or 0. And so maybe, and then if you're going to make money doing that, maybe that's worth the cost. Maybe it's worth the cost anyway. So then just get this stuff written down. I can't tell you how many times. I even do it for me. Like I'll be worried about something and I'll just think, why am I worried about this? Just write down what we're going to do or what the thing is. And it's funny, we have, I work with Cappy is my boyfriend and he does building. And we always joke that he's not allowed to give a verbal estimate on time or cost because we are all in our head different, like very optimistic about everything, right? We can get it done in a week. It'll cost X and then it costs 3X. I have never worked on a project ever in the history of time that is done early. So if you write everything down and document everything about what you want and exactly what you want to look like, then those things don't trap you as much. And frankly, if you have a lot of optimism in how you like to work and you just know that about yourself, and frankly, everybody is, add 20% time or add 20% cost. Because what you can do is when you start writing down the list of everything you want, you can start putting numbers to it and start putting time against it. If you want to build a pole barn, you have to put a concrete pad down. How long does that take? What season can you do it in? How much does it cost? You can really start building it out. And again, don't get overwhelmed by the total scope. Just look at that tiny thing, solve that tiny thing, and then move on to the next tiny thing. And then over time, all those tiny things adds up to this amazing project that you can now pull off because you've done the work. All right, what's our next question? How can my career or business benefit from me getting a project management certificate? How do I pick the right certification for me? That's a good question. So as you know, we have an IXAF certification, which is about using our IP to actually help companies pull things off, basically. Now, that's a different kind of certification because the certification for that is a license to go away and use our stuff to grow your business or your career or your company or whatever, or help other people change the world. A project management certification has been around for a very long time, and it's this huge sort of globally recognized skill set. So project management certification, it's a very structured, very strict, a very hard test, but project management training can help in so many ways about making sure that you can pull things off on time and on budget. That's really the key to project management. And part of it, so thinking about certifying in project management, I do teach classes in project management. And if you're interested at all, let me know because I do classes about every quarter. I think we have one coming up the week of September 22nd or something like that. I'd have to look it up, but it's a 2 and 3 day class that you could really benefit from. It's all interactive. It's all really great. So anyway, end of sales pitch. So project management certification has really helped me because I was doing project big project management, like $60 million a year budgets, 150 people, 1,000 moving parts all the time, international mission, international ground stations, dealing with Google, dealing with NASA, dealing with policy. Like, it was crazy. It was very complicated stuff. And so having it all organized was very powerful tool. But I didn't have a certification. I just freaking did it. It's just my job. And so when we talk about getting certified, I went and got certified when I wanted to go get a job. So if you Google jobs for project managers, or PMP is the code, project management professional, you can make more money and get better jobs with project management certification, because it's so widely accepted now as a level. In order to get it, you have to have a level of experience and expertise. Now, if you don't feel like you have that now, it's probably just because you've never worked in a formal project management environment. If you're great at projects, you're great at planning, you're great at pulling things off, you probably already have that sort of innate project management skill that a lot of people possess. But to get certified, you have to actually pass a test and use their words and how they talk about project management, which is the real challenge. And that's one of the things that I'd be happy to help you prepare for. It's widely considered one of the hardest tests that you can get, for certification. And it is literally hours and hours and hours of studying. And I don't mean to say that to scare you. I just want you to be aware that it's not simple. It's one of those 4-hour tests where you sit down and frankly, what I would encourage you to do if you're thinking about doing project management as a certification, is sit down and take some practice questions. You can find them if you just Google project management practice questions. There's a lot of just little short, free examples, and your brain will start melting immediately. I mean, the way they use language, the words they use, the jargon they use is just like, so much. Which is why I encourage people to let me know, because I can either work with you one-on-one, or you can come to one of my classes and we work through a lot of that jargon in a way that makes a lot more sense. So anyway, just let me know. So the PMP certification will help you if you're looking for work. Sometimes if you're looking to get work, like if you're a consultant, if I go to a state agency and I say I'm a PMP, that actually holds some weight, because they know that I know how to manage money. I don't know how to manage projects. I'm more likely to get things done in a better way. So that's one way to think about that PMP certification. Now, PMP, you have to have 5 years minimum in a project management role of some kind, and that's it has to be in one of the areas. So that's planning, executing, procurement, those kinds of things, closing, executing, monitoring, and controlling. I would say the other thing that's really valuable about project management generally is a lot of us are good at planning a project, but then as you actually execute the project, it'll start going off the rails. Like we're all great at goal setting. We have a big goal. We want to make $4 million a year this year. Well, then all of a sudden, after the first quarter and we haven't made $1 million, then that means that we need to adjust something. Or maybe we make $2 million in the first quarter, and then that means you have to adjust up. But it's hard to know, like as you go, it's hard to adjust because things change all the time. And so actually project management has a lot of tools you use that you can actually help keep on track over time, or figure out, okay, well, we can get behind or ahead a little bit and we don't want to change anything, but how far out of normal do we get before we adjust something? And so that's really another way that project management can really help you. And one thing we talk about in the class is how do you track things over time to see how you're actually doing? And frankly, if you're going to be behind schedule or over budget, what do you adjust? Who do you talk to? Oh, hey, Shelly. The ebbs and flows of what we call KPIs, key performance indicators, as those change, how do you change? Who do you notify? How do you manage your stakeholders? Who's involved? So that's one of those really important things that project management can give you also. The other cool thing for the women in the room, and frankly Guthrie too, who's watching is that it gives you a language that is similar. Shelley's acting as IX leadership, by the way, if you didn't notice. She's signed on as IX. But anyway, so it gives you the same language. So when you're talking, if you go to a big table, and let's say you go to the state capitol as a representative, and you are talking to one of the people that's running one of the big, let's say, Department of Corrections, and they are talking about, well, this is how this construction's going, and it's going to do this and this, and we're going to have to crash the schedule, and blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of language that if you understand the language, you can communicate in a way that resonates, makes sense, and all that. So it gives you a seat at the table, right? And so if you're trying to move up, if you're trying to reach out to another company, if you're trying to establish your credibility with a new team or an external team, having that same language about how you pull things off in a very practical and real way is a huge advantage. So even if you take a little bit of training and you understand what the words are and how they talk to each other, that's a huge, huge, huge benefit. Because as you know, if I came to you and said, I think, Shelley, I think we're going to have to crash the schedule to make this happen. And if Shelley doesn't know that means we're going to have to spend more money to get it done on time, and she says, sure, that seems fine, and then all of a sudden I'm spending more money and she doesn't understand why, right? So that having that dialogue and understanding that dynamic is really, really important. Oh, Kristen looks like she's going to a class. Tell me what it is. I bet ours is better. And not because I'm an egomaniac, but because ours is just really great. Okay, so how can IX leadership make me more successful project manager? Ooh, this is good. Ooh, change management training. Yeah, guiding organizational change. It's one of our core ones. Hopefully you have a good one. Let's see. IX leadership. How does IX leadership combine with project management? Project management. Well, as you know, IX leadership is really all about how change and getting people through change and creating, that environment of like ass kickery, I guess, pulling things off. And so you understand change and how people are moving through change and how we can powerfully create a team that sees themselves as part of that team and is incredibly valued and strong, right? And that we're all pulling in the same direction, because if we all pull together, we're going to get way farther and have a lot more success than if we work independently. And a lot of change makes people get really nervous, right? And chaotic. And that makes people completely fall apart. So the cool thing is when you think about change in project management, especially, project management by nature, you are creating something where nothing was, right? You're creating a project and you're guiding and leading a project. Now, of course, the thing that's the most important is the humans that are actually going to pull this off. And so as a project manager, if I don't understand my IX culture types, I'm going to just spin my wheels all over the place on this. Because when I ask someone to come along with me about a change journey, an organizational change journey, that's going to scare the crap out of people. Well, it's going to scare the crap out of stabilizers, right? Scare the crap out of them. And so what can we do differently as a project manager to make sure they're on board and they're understanding what's going on? Well, guess what? Project management at its core is about planning the schedule, how we're going to deal with changes, how we're going to deal with money, what's the budget, who's involved, who are our stakeholders, when are we going to talk to them? So in that environment, you can imagine that stabilizers and organizers can thrive in that environment, because it's very predictable, very planned, really powerfully, frankly, stable. Now, the tricky thing is in an environment that's very orderly, fixers and independents, our chaos types, they can be really, really stressed out. And so that stress is going to come out. If you're a chaos person and you feel like you're in a stabilizer environment, that stress is going to come out pear-shaped, right? It's going to come out sideways because they're going to want that creativity. They're going to want that dynamics. But trust me when I say that project managers have a lot of chaos that they're dealing with. And so what happens is a lot of times fixers become project managers because they like dealing with that interface between all the crap that's going on and the people that are executing the stuff. Right. And so Guthrie is independent, creeping toward fixer, right? Same idea. Like you want to do different things all the time, but also you want to pull things off. So that's the role that is exciting and interesting when you're trying to balance those big picture goals with the day-to-day stuff. And that's why I love project management, because it lets me, it's kind of this weird space because you have to be able to see and understand those big goals. What is the right thing? Or what is the thing that's going to pull off stuff? And what does a win look like? And what is the goal? So those are really big sort of chaotic ideas about connecting. Oh, well, Susie can do this and Betty can do that and Sam is going to do this and together we can make this great thing. That's kind of a chaos tolerant perspective, because you're pulling from all these different places and putting it together. But you also have to be able to look at the details and understand, okay, this is going to come get us. So in the culture type world, okay, well, I know Meg's an independent, and so embedding her in this sort of routine environment is going to drive her crazy. So how can we have her working on stuff that's going to move her along? Oh, Kristen, I was just looking. Kristen's comment, accelerate change and transitions and facilitation skills for leaders. That could pretty much be what we do, the title. So I cannot wait to hear how that is, because I'm super curious. Okay, so, and so like with Meg, she'd be this chaotic person in this organized space and she's gonna be nuts. And so I would give her something that's much more project independent. Stabilizers and organizers are gonna be really consistent and really consistent, and or is that ours? That's really funny. I'm just processing. That's really awesome. Okay, anyway, catching up. Anyway, so, and then the stabilizers and organizers will actually be pretty good. What happens with these guys, and this is actually kind of how project management came to be, if I had to guess, is that if you think about change, and change for us chaos people, right? We're just, let's roll with it. We'll figure it out as we go. It'll be fine. But in an orderly environment, we are looking at when the change happens in a true change management environment. Funny. In a true change management environment, they actually have a whole process. You create a change request. It goes to a change board. They review it and approve it and then roll it into this thing, right? It's even their change is really orderly. Kristen, sorry, I'm catching up. I'm totally out of my loop. That's really funny. Anyway, so these folks, these folks, organizers and stabilizers, those guys are really, they have created a change management environment that suits their orderly nature. Even change, they have created this really routine, common thing. And so that's another part of project management is change management, and that suits these guys, stabilizers and organizers. Independents and fixers, of course, we love all the chaotic things. So we're much better at being the nimble on our feet people. And so that's really where understanding how IX and project management can integrate. All right, so do you guys have any questions for the couple people that are on that I can answer about project management? Because I'd be happy to answer anything if you have anything specific in mind. What other things about project management are important? I think one thing to keep in mind that project management works on is stakeholder management. So stakeholder management is about dealing with people. And of course, that adds definitely an IX connection, right? Guthrie, we talked about this a little bit at the Billy Sutton Institute, where we think about who we have to talk to on a regular basis or irregular basis and how they can help us. And so if we understand, let's say, if I want to reach out to Billy on the regular basis about how things are going with his group and just touch base, that's something that I can really lose track of because I'm a fixer and I'm super chaotic, right? And I just don't track things at all. And so that's how we so for me, I have to put something on the calendar in 2 months to say, hey, go talk with Billy and see how things are going. Otherwise I forget. And so I have to recognize that I'm chaotic. And so I won't remember. And I have to recognize that Billy is chaotic. And so he's not going to think about touching base with me. And so then I can proactively book out a calendar appointment to meet with him. In fact, I've already done that to make sure that we've already agreed to a time so I can touch base and see how things are going. Another example is I have I have a woman named Jennifer. She has our certifications. She is off in Atlanta, Georgia, and she's an independent. And I don't think she's on, but the independent thing is she is super going on her own. She does her own thing. She just plugs a little bits of what we do into her stuff. But all of a sudden what will happen is she'll have to deliver to a particularly tough customer, and she will reach out to me and then we'll interact constantly for 3 days before she goes and delivers. And then of course I'll want to find out how it went, and she calls me right away, and we kind of go over how it went and what she accomplished and all these big exciting things that happen. And then I don't hear from her for another month or 2. Just depends on how she's doing and how she's feeling. And so those ebbs and flows of communication and stakeholder management is really about project managing and the understanding of the arc of a project and what pieces and parts are involved. So I see one way we think about it is our certification is a profit center or is a part of our business, right? But for me, I can almost treat that as a project, right? Because I can track, okay, we started cohort 3 in June, we're starting cohort 4 in July. This is where they're all at. This is how many people are being engaged. This is who I need to reach out to. These people are at this stage. When they sign their license agreement, then they go off into the world and get to do the things that they do with our certification, and then they come back. And then that lasts for a year. So it gives me a framework to be organized around. And frankly, we have, okay, this is what success looks like. This is what they need to know. We've created an entire 8-week program. We know what we're talking about every week. We know we put together 40 some odd videos that are in our Rose Group Academy. So that whole thing is a project. Figure out where we start and where we end. And what does success look like? So all of that sort of routine stuff that I personally drives me crazy on a day-to-day basis, I really love and really dig into the planning part, because that's growing over time, right? That's that once I establish that, it's a huge gift to me, because then I'm not have all this anxiety around what to do, when to do it, what it looks like, and all that stuff. And then it's also a gift to everyone else around me, because I'm not a spaz. And then I know that the things are already set and planned. So it's a huge stress reducer, first of all. Second of all, I think is really fun, because it lets me be my brainstormy, weird, chaosy person, but it also gives a framework to it, so it doesn't feel out of control. And it also means that I'm going to actually probably accomplish the thing. And if there's big changes, it gives me a framework to change the things in a way that actually moves me closer to my goal. So project management I'm really nerdy about it. I mean, more nerdy about it than I am about IX leadership, which is telling you something. But it is really designed. It was originally designed to be for huge, huge projects, but I've done it enough at a very light level, but it's not light for the people in it. It's very serious, but it's very light treatment of project management for small business, small groups, even solo entrepreneurs. And so it's definitely a way to give you that structure that you feel like sometimes you get kind of panicky or overwhelmed without. So let me see if I have oh, Danielle's here. Hey, Danielle. So I think that is all I will say about that, unless you have any questions. I'm trying to think of what else. The hard part is project management is one of those topics that formally there are 10 knowledge areas. Should I see if I can name them? Oh God, so much pressure. Well, there's stakeholder management, procurement management, schedule, budget, resources, that's usually human resources, risk. Let me see what else is there. I still have 4 more. Quality, scope management, integration. I think there's one more. I can't remember it. Anyway, it's tough to do from memory. But there's 10 knowledge areas in official technical project management training. And each one of those knowledge areas, you can literally get a PhD in. So it is very, very deep and very, very jargony and very, very specific. So I'm trying to give you a taste of what the benefits of project management are without getting too much in the weeds. So it's kind of hard to get that like tiny little oil slick level of information. I guess one thing I will just mention, maybe if I take half a second and look up the dates, if you're interested in more about the project management training, it looks like, I will just check it out. It is on the week of the 16th of September. So that is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. No, Monday and Tuesday is a project management training camp. And what I can do is I can put a link to the ClickFunnels or the landing page so you can read more about it. The first 2 days are project management training camp, which is really interactive and fun. And then 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, is guiding organizational change. And that one is really interesting because we do a little bit of the transition model, but we also dig into interactive software where you get assigned people and you have to figure out how to balance them and stuff like that. So I can put stuff like that I'll put the link to that information on the site just in case you want additional training. If you have more questions, I'm happy to just chat with you about individual questions, and if I can help in any way. We do what we call fractional project management training. So if you want somebody to just come in and help you spend a half a day and help create the plan or set something up or work over a few months to figure out how to actually execute some things, happy to help you do that too. But otherwise, just happy to chat as a PM that knows what they're doing and know how much work it takes to get the things done. So, okay, well, if there's no other questions, Danielle, sorry you jumped in at the end here, but you can have to go back and watch the beginning. Thanks for being on today. And if you're watching later, thanks for jumping in and catching up, and we look forward to talking to you later. Have a great day. Bye.